Hey there, my fellow Indians. Welcome to News Hamster. Today we have a very special guest at our interview segment, that is Sandarshana. He started off his political career with the CPIM. Then he moved on to the Bharatiya Janata Party. In the BJP, he played a very crucial role because he was very closely associated with the Prime Minister's office when Atal Bihari Bajpayee ji was the Prime Minister. He has also worked very closely with a stalwart BJP leader, Lal Krishna Advani. After serving the BJP for a good amount of time, he quit the Bharatiya Janata Party due to differences with the party's ideological inclinations. After that, he is currently pursuing his idea of Hindu-Muslim unity. He speaks about normalization of relationships between India and Pakistan, and he also is supporting the cause of Congress Party. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Sudheendra Kulkarni. So you have been an active part of the Vajpayee government, and you've been very close to him. In fact, you've even written his speeches. I just want to understand, what is the difference do you see between the BJP under Vajpayee ji and the BJP under Modi ji?
So first of all, I want to say a big thank you to you for the opportunity of interacting with you, Saklain,
It's a pleasure.
and your wonderful young team. My first such media interaction in Bangalore.
Right.
My own state, Karnataka. So I'm happy and thank you for this opportunity.
Right.
I see a world of difference
Okay.
between the personalities of Atal Bihari Bajpayee and Narendra Modi.
Hmm.
Vajpayee was a statesman. Vajpayee was a man who believed deeply in uniting people across religions, regions, even ideologies. Vajpayee ji was a leader who respected those who had differences with his own ideology and his own party,
Right.
and he was a true democrat. He often used to say कि भारत एक बहुत विशाल देश है और विविधतापूर्ण देश है. यहाँ की विविधता, that is diversity, ये हमारी कमजोरी नहीं है, ये हमारा स्ट्रेंथ है. और हमें इस डाइवर्सिटी, वी शुड सेलिब्रेट दिस डाइवर्सिटी
Right.
and not fear this diversity, and much less try to suppress this diversity. And I would say, having worked very closely with him in the BJP and also in the Prime Minister's office, that he genuinely believed in bringing Hindus and Muslims closer,
Right.
in a relationship of harmony, in a relationship of bhaichara, and in a relationship of shared Indian unity. उनकी बातें कुछ भी हो, उनकी बातों में और हकीकत में, कथनी में और करनी में बहुत बड़ा फर्क है.
Okay.
वो कहते तो हैं कि सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास, लेकिन ये जो भारत की विविधता है, डाइवर्सिटी है, और उस डाइवर्सिटी का एक बहुत प्रमुख अंग यहाँ की मुस्लिम समुदाय है,
Right.
which is an integral part of India.
Okay.
I won't use the word minority because minority often signifies a community that is numerically small.
All right.
But how can you say Muslims are numerically small when their population is nearly 20 crore,
Is it?
200 million,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, which is larger than the entire populations of hundreds of countries in the world. So even in terms of Muslim population, we are almost close to the country with the largest population, that is Indonesia, and almost equal to Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Right.
So I won't call Muslims a minority.
Okay.
Because Muslims, first of all, are numerically very, very large. But more than that, they have always been part of India. Now, Modi ji, in these 8 years, has he emotionally reached out to Muslims? Has he, through his policies, through his actions, through his decisions, brought Muslims closer to his politics, his party? Whereas there are instances after instances after instances where we see that he is following a strategy of communal divide, consolidating the Hindu vote bank in such a way that they don't need any Muslim support at all. Okay. So long as they have a sufficiently large Hindu voters voting for the BJP, they are through. In today's electoral democratic system, the first past post system,
right,
they have less than 40% of the total electorate, but that is enough for them to be in power, to retain power, to continue in power. And they are blatant now enough to say that ours is a strategy of 80% versus 20%.
Right.
I've just come back from Uttar Pradesh, where the assembly elections took place. I toured extensively in Uttar Pradesh.
Right.
And right at the beginning of the campaign, the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Yogi Adityanath, says that this election is a 80% versus 20%.
Right, that was on record, yes.
It is on record. It goes against the Constitution of India. It goes against the People's Representation Act.
Right.
It goes against the Model Code of Conduct as laid down by the Election Commission. But the Election Commission did not ask him even for an explanation.
Right.
Much less taking any punitive action. What is 80% versus 20%? It means that 20% don't matter. They are as good as disenfranchised.
Okay.
Their votes don't matter. We will win without you.
Right.
So, and has Modi, forget in Election Commission, Modi is the Prime Minister of India. Has he reprimanded the Chief Minister for having said this?
No, he hasn't.
He hasn't.
Yeah.
In fact, in several of his own election speeches, he has used these things to convey a message
Right.
amongst Hindus, and that is detrimental to Muslims.
Right.
So, this is something which Vajpayee ji never did. And this is the difference between the two.
So you're telling on record that the BJP under Prime Minister Modi is more communal and more, you could say, polarization driven, and these kind of politics is what they are following right now.
First of all, I'm saying all this on record.
Yes, yes.
I'm not hiding it at all. Secondly, you said more communal. It presupposes that Vajpayee ji was communal.
Yeah.
And Modi ji is more communal. I don't believe this.
Right.
Vajpayee ji was not communal.
Okay. Okay.
He genuinely believed in trying to create harmony
Right.
between Hindus and Muslims.
Right. Right.
Although there are real problems which cannot be hidden, which cannot be brushed under the carpet. There are problems between Hindus and Muslims. And these problems should be candidly discussed, both by representatives of the Hindu community and the Muslim community, in trying to bridge the differences.
Right.
But I can say, having worked closely with Vajpayee ji, that he also came from the RSS background. He also came from the Jansangh background. He was the founder of the BJP in 1980. And he wanted, to answer your question, he wanted India as a nation free of communalism.
Right.
He wanted our democracy to be free of communalism.
No, I just have to understand from you. It's been asked on record as well. Modi versus who is the question? Because when 2014 came into picture, the only choice that people saw was that charismatic face and that connection that they built with this guy who has seen smallest of the smallest problems of his life to the biggest problems. That was the connection that people built with Prime Minister Modi. You've gone on record to say Rahul Gandhi can be a very good choice for the Prime Minister, but country does not want to accept. It's clear with the UP elections, clear with the Bihar elections. So you tell me, it's Modi versus who?
See, this question itself is misconstrued.
Okay.
Let's go back to 2004.
Mm-hmm.
The question then asked was, Vajpayee versus who?
Okay.
Vajpayee was a very, very popular leader.
Mm-hmm.
And his 6 years of governance, he did many good things for India. And the opposition was not united. The opposition did not have a prime ministerial candidate.
Right.
And nobody even imagined that Dr. Manmohan Singh would be the prime minister.
Absolutely, yes.
But he became prime minister, not only for one term, but for 2 terms.
2 terms, yeah.
He served India as a prime minister for 10 years. So, this question, Modi versus who? The nation will answer this question. The people will answer this question.
Right.
Because asking this question in this manner presupposes that 2024 is a closed game. It's already decided that Modi is going to win, BJP is going to win. As if there is no need, in fact, for deciding anything. It's already done, and Modi is going to be the prime minister once again. I don't believe so.
Okay.
Of course, it is up to the people. The people decide in 2024 to give a majority to the BJP again, and a BJP led by Narendra Modi ji. Fine, one has to accept it. But this is democracy. There are 2 more years, and in 2 years, a lot can change in Indian politics. And in these 2 years, I very clearly see that many non-BJP parties, including the Congress, are going to come together on a common platform.
Okay.
Rahul Gandhi may not be the prime ministerial candidate.
Right.
But there are many other people who are more experienced. And when the time comes, and when the people decide that there should be an alternative, and first of all, ours is not a presidential system.
Right.
It is not, Modi is not a president, not the president of India. And the rest of the political establishment is not expected to nominate a presidential candidate. We are a parliamentary system. The majority of parliamentarians, that is members of the Lok Sabha, will decide who should be the leader of the party or the alliance that has the largest number. And when the time comes, this question will be resolved.
I will just ask you a primary simple thing. You've been in the, you're toured for the UP elections. You've seen it very closely. People often say that UP elections is the bellwether of Indian politics. Whatever happens in UP is reflecting in the center. How much do you agree with this?
This also is a misconception.
Okay.
Of course, Uttar Pradesh is a very large state with a population of close to 250 million people, 25 crore people. It has 80 members of the Lok Sabha in parliament.
Right.
So nobody can deny the political importance of Uttar Pradesh. But let's not therefore conclude that whatever UP decides, the rest of India has to accept. That's not true at all.
Right.
And even though the BJP has won a majority in the assembly elections, we have to wait and see. The national elections are quite different. National election, people of India are mature enough to know the difference between parliamentary elections and
The assembly.
Assembly election.
No, don't you think the so-called identity politics played a very crucial role in Uttar Pradesh, or probably identity politics is playing a very important role in all over the states in India?
See, if by identity politics you mean the BJP's effort, BJP's strategy to create a Hindu identity, not only in Uttar Pradesh but all over India, you are absolutely right. This is the BJP strategy.
Okay.
To somehow Hinduize the electorate and make them perceive themselves as being primarily Hindu.
Okay.
And see the BJP as a protector of Hindu interests. And what they have also done is that they have now equated Hindu interests with India's interests.
Right.
Hindu interest means national interest. Thereby, the logical extension that the BJP is not only the protector of Hindu interests, but the BJP is the only protector of national interests. The people of India are very patriotic.
Right.
Obviously, they want the national interest to be protected. Now, this propaganda that we are the only patriotic party,
right,
and those who are against us are Deshdrohis, are Gaddars, are less of Indian. They don't have India's interest at heart.
Okay.
This propaganda is all based on what you rightly called identity politics, Hindu identity politics.
Right.
The fact of the matter is that even the Hindu society does not fully believe in this.
Okay.
Even the majority of Hindus have not voted for the BJP.
Okay.
Even in the peak performance of the BJP, they have not been able to get the largest number of the majority of Hindus to back them.
So how is that?
As I said, when you have a sufficiently large number of people voting for you to cross the halfway mark, it serves their game. And playing this identity politics is not just to show that we are pro-Hindu, but we are protecting you from Muslims.
Okay.
This is the stated or unstated part of the communication. Sometimes it is very clearly stated, sometimes it's just the undercurrent. That to India to be protected, for India's national interest to be protected, Muslims have to be taught a lesson. ये इनकी पॉलिटिक्स है. उत्तर प्रदेश हो, सब जगह आज तो कर्नाटक में कर रहे हैं. कर्नाटक में क्या कर रहे हैं? कर्नाटक में तो इनका वही होगा कि सब हिंदुओं को उनकी हिंदू आइडेंटिटी जगाओ और मेजॉरिटी ले लो. If elections are fought on the basis of governance, if elections are fought on the basis of what they have promised to the people and what they have performed, then there is no chance of the BJP getting elected. In fact, there is no chance of BJP getting elected even in 2024.
Right.
Hindu खतरे में है.
Yeah, we have come across that.
मुस्लिम समाज में भी यही होता था. इस्लाम खतरे में है, तो इस्लाम खतरे में है, तो सब मुसलमानों को इकट्ठा करो.
राइट.
वो भी गलत था, ये भी गलत है.
Recently, in the past elections, Bihar, now Gujarat coming up, even the Lok Sabha election that happened recently, what we have seen is what we would like to refer to as ghettoization of Muslims. There is no representation at all. Literally, there's no representation apart from just an MP or so. In the assembly elections, no seats have been granted. Getting elected is a secondary question. No seats have been granted. Do you think that Muslim community innately suffers from a problem, or is it agenda-driven thing?
Sakleen, you have asked a very pertinent question. And you also made a very right observation that the BJP, which is the ruling party, did not give any representation to Muslims,
Right.
even though they constitute
A large chunk of
a
population.
very large section of the population. Take the example of UP. UP Assembly has 403 seats. In 403 seats, this party, which says Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas, did not give a single Muslim ticket to contest on the BJP platform. What does it show? It's sending a signal that we don't need you.
Acha.
We can win without you. They didn't do it in Gujarat, which is the home state of Narendra Modi.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is, as I said earlier, this is disempowerment, this is disenfranchisement of Muslims. This is actually making Muslims invisible in politics,
Right.
in governance. And this has dangerous consequences. This goes against our constitution. Now, there are also, we have to see whether Muslims also have contributed to this ghettoization.
Right.
And I would say, yes,
Okay.
Muslims need to introspect very seriously why this has happened.
Right.
First of all, the partition of India was a big mistake.
Okay.
And much of what is happening now, even though 75 years have passed, much of what is happening now is a consequence of the partition of India.
Okay.
The partition of India took place on a very wrong basis. That is the two-nation theory.
Right.
The notion that Hindus and Muslims are two separate nations, जो Muslim League ने चलाई.
Right.
In a nation where ethnically Muslims are as much a part of India as anyone else, they are not people who came from outside. It's just that they changed their religion, they adopted Islam.
Right. Right. Right.
But adoption of a different religion does not change their nationality. Yet, Muslim League adopted this very poisonous theory called two nations theory. And because of the weaknesses of our freedom movement, because of the chalaki of the British, we could not prevent the partition of India.
Absolutely.
हो गया. अब कोई अखंड भारत होने वाला नहीं है.
Right.
पाकिस्तान बन गया है, अच्छी बात है. पाकिस्तान और हिंदुस्तान पड़ोसी हैं, and we should live as good neighbors. But Pakistan itself got divided later in 1971.
True. True. Yes.
Which actually demolished this whole basis that Islam can be the platform,
Yeah.
can be the binding factor for a nation.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
Now, Pakistan called itself an Islamic Republic. There are many forces in Bangladesh that want Bangladesh also to be an Islamic Republic. This has given a certain impetus to the Hindutva forces in India to say that, therefore, India should be a Hindu republic. That India cannot be secular. So secularism is under very big threat.
Okay.
And secularism has to be defended by Hindus and Muslims and everyone. Because India can be India and India can be united only if we are secular.
Right.
Which means, what is the meaning of secularism? Equal respect for all religions. Sarva dharma samabhav. Now, I would say that the Muslim community in India has to, forget the past. There are many people in the Muslim community who still कि हमने राज किया.
अच्छा।
हमने हिंदुस्तान पर राज किया, सैकड़ों साल राज किया, तो उस थिंकिंग से बाहर आना चाहिए। अब तो हम, इंडिया इज अ सेक्युलर नेशन and the Muslim community should be very confidently coming out to be part of the nation and become part of the integration of India.
Right.
जो integration यानी social integration, cultural integration, emotional integration, और कहीं ना कहीं मुस्लिम समाज में अपनी आइडेंटिटी को लेकर there is a certain confusion.
Achha.
That they think that if we get totally integrated, our identity will be lost.
Okay.
So therefore, I feel this also has to some extent contributed to ghettoization.
Okay.
I won't say that this is the only thing.
But it
A
has
bigger contribution, I would say, is the discrimination by the Indian state. A bigger contribution. क्योंकि आज हम इंडिया में देखते हैं कि हमारा जो स्टेट मशीनरी है, it blatantly discriminates against Muslims in jobs,
Okay.
in business, in public life, and certainly in politics. I gave the example just now.
Right.
This has increased during the BJP rule. और ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन तो अब इतना खतरनाक होता जा रहा है. I read yesterday in newspapers in Bengaluru. There is one fair in Shimoga, the district of Karnataka.
Right.
For centuries, Hindus and Muslims have participated in these fairs and all these things together.
Right.
But there is a systematic economic isolation of Muslims, social isolation of Muslims, cultural isolation of Muslims. So I said that this is the primary reason for the ghettoization.
Right.
But Muslims also have contributed.
Nicely
And
put,
Muslims need to very seriously introspect.
Right.
What is their mistake? And they should reform their ways.
Right. So looking at the so-called largest opposition party, that's the Congress, I'm coming to the next year Karnataka elections that we are going to witness, and seems like preparations have already started for the elections. Most of the people believe that Congress is dead, Congress can't be revived, but a lot of political analysts have said that it's still not game over for Congress. What do you think are the chances of the Congress party, or what should be the strategy of the Congress party for the 2023 Karnataka elections if they want to retain power?
Those who say that the Congress is dead, they are either ignorant or they are prejudiced. Congress is not dead. Congress cannot die. Congress should not die, and Congress will not die. Congress is bound to be revived. And Congress is a very big force in Karnataka. Elections are due in a few months for the assembly in Karnataka.
Right.
The BJP government, which is the incumbent government, is suffering from a very heavy anti-incumbency.
Okay.
It is provided one of the worst governments in the history of Karnataka.
So you're talking about Yediyurappa's and Mr. Bommai's
Yeah,
collective
you know,
regime.
Yediyurappa is one of the tallest leaders of Karnataka.
Agreed.
And he is the principal pillar of the BJP in Karnataka.
Okay.
He's the one who built the party in Karnataka and gave it a mass character. And he was removed. I would not like to comment on whether he should have been removed or how he was removed.
Okay.
Now he has been replaced by Bommai. Bommai is as a person, he's a decent person. He comes from not the RSS background.
Agreed.
not the Jansangh background. Actually, his political background is that of the Janata.
Right.
Janata Parivar.
Yeah.
His father,
SR Bomma.
S.R. Bommai, was a Janata Dal leader. He cannot assert himself, even though he does not come from the Sangh Parivar background. It is the Sangh Parivar's agenda that is being implemented in Karnataka.
Okay.
But again, see, a government should be judged on the basis of whether it has provided good governance, whether it has provided clean governance, corruption-free governance. मोदी जी, उनका एक आश्वासन था, his promise, न खाऊंगा न खाने दूंगा. कर्नाटक में क्या है? खाने न खाने दूंगा. कर्नाटक में तो कहते हैं कि ये तो 40% की सरकार है. You know, there is many contractors in Karnataka. They went on record.
Yes.
उसे यहाँ तो 10% नहीं, 40% करप्शन लिया जाता है.
Right.
ब्राइब ली जाती है.
Yeah, it was reported. Yeah.
So what has this government done? So there is a very strong anti-incumbency. And therefore, this government deserves to go. It is also pursuing the politics of polarization, communal polarization. And I'm sure that if the Congress gets its act together, Congress can win. But there are many weaknesses in the Congress party.
Okay.
And the Congress should not ignore these weaknesses.
Can you highlight one of them for us?
Most certainly. First of all, I would say that the Congress needs, without any further delay, give a very strong signal that the two top leaders, Siddaramaiah and D.K. Shivkumar, are together and united. And there is no internal tussle between them.
Right.
Because lots of people in Karnataka, they perceive that there is no unity at the top in Karnataka. So they must show a united face and not just show for the purpose of getting votes, but they should actually
work on that.
They should actually work together for the good of Karnataka, for giving a better governance to Karnataka. This is one thing. Secondly, the Congress has to also not depend on central leadership.
Right.
This is a Karnataka state election. The Congress leadership in Karnataka should assert its own local leadership, local issues, what is good for Karnataka, and less be driven by high command politics. Because high command politics means leaders go to Delhi, try to get in the good books of people at the top. Now, this is what has actually, this culture, Darbari culture.
That's always been in the Congress.
This Darbari culture has hurt the Congress very badly.
Absolutely.
As a result, people who are capable, people who have mass base, people who are truly committed to the ideology of the party and not their own individual interests or group interests, they don't come to the leadership level. High command, it is high time. They completely bury the high command culture.
That's fairly impossible, sir, was what I believe.
No, I won't say it's impossible because nothing is impossible in the world. If right lessons are learned, Rahul Gandhi himself has made a very important statement after the UP election and elections in Punjab, Goa and Uttarakhand and Manipur.
Right.
That these elections are highly disappointing. We will learn the right lessons.
Rahul Gandhi does make a lot of statements that way.
Whether they actually learn the right lessons is a different thing. But I won't say it's impossible.
Okay.
There is a churning happening in the Congress party right now. वहाँ अभी उनकी एक चिंतन बैठक होने वाली है. चिंतन मंथन. It means that there has to be a proper churning.
Yeah, yeah.
And in that churning, the poison should go and the amrit should come to the surface. ये poison को भी हम साथ रखेंगे और अमृत भी चाहिए, ये तो होगा
मुश्किल, right? This is a recurring pattern that, once they lose an election, they say yes, the high command is going to change, we're going to replace. Then again, the whole Congress party workers go haywire that we cannot let Madam Sonia Gandhi or even Rahul Gandhi to quit, and they come back to power, and again the whole circle happens. Don't you think this is the pattern that Congress is following?
No, you see, every party, if it's a living party, and I'm sure that the Congress is a living party, it's not a dead party.
Okay.
Every living organism has to rectify its mistake, has to reform itself. The Congress, I'm sure, has come to a point where the cost of not reforming will be going towards further decline. और ये जो है खतरनाक होगा कांग्रेस के लिए. So therefore, the Congress has to now democratize itself.
Right.
The Congress has to listen to critics within its own ranks. The Congress also has to listen to critics in the ecosystem. जो कांग्रेस पार्टी के बाहर हैं और कांग्रेस को क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं, तो उनकी बात सुनो. वो सिर्फ क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं इसलिए उनको दूर मत रखो, because they are your well wishers.
Okay.
Listen to your well wishers. And I would say that even listen to your opponents and see whether there is something to learn from them.
Yeah.
That is the only way a party can come out of its morass and become stronger.
Right.
That is the point where the Congress is today.
Okay. What would be the role of the regional parties in the election? We have seen how Aam Aadmi Party has emerged from the smallest to the smallest to the ruling party of Punjab. In Karnataka, there are several of these parties. So what role do they have? Importantly, the Janata Dal, the JDS. What role do they have here?
Good question.
Yeah.
Not only in Karnataka, but all over the country, the importance of regional parties has increased in the past few years.
Right.
Partly because the Congress has declined. But even without the decline of the Congress, regional parties have emerged stronger in our federal system. Whether it is Mamata Banerjee in West Bengal, Stalin in
Tamil
Nadu, or we have the example of Odisha, where for many years Naveen Patnaik ji is in power.
Right, the Biju
Janata Dal.
Yeah.
So, in Karnataka, we have one small regional party. On its own, it has never come to power.
Right.
Unlike DMK in Tamil Nadu or TMC in West Bengal.
Agreed. Yes.
Janata Dal S, led by Deve Gowda, the former Prime Minister, has never come to power in Karnataka on its own. But it has very often been a party that decides who can form the government.
Yes.
Now, if you see the history of Janata Dal, it's an offshoot of Janata Dal. It's a Janata Dal, called itself secular.
Right.
So it should adhere to the path of secularism, which means today that it must not allow the BJP to come back to power. And in the event of a hung assembly, give support to the BJP. So Janata Dal S must remain true to its tradition. It has not been very true to its own tradition so far. It has played a politics of wherever it finds its self-interest.
But I would like to cut you there, because Janata Dal has been the basket of defection, where someone who defects goes there. Now we have seen 2-3 examples already happen. Now we have already, we are hearing news that Janata Dal is going to have the majority. Like in the previous time, the assembly, we saw so many defections happen. The regime shift, and it was a lot of chaos that happened in Karnataka. Janata Dal has you could say, banked on the opportunity. Is that the true intention of the party, or how is it?
See, defections, unfortunately, have been the hallmark of politics in many states. It's happening in Karnataka also. And any party that wants to be the balancer, which is what Janata Dal S in Karnataka has been trying to do, will try to get people from the Congress, sometimes even from the BJP,
Right.
just to increase its base. But today, at a time when, as we discussed right from the beginning, the Bharatiya Janata Party has to be defeated in Karnataka, and going forward, the Bharatiya Janata Party has to be defeated at the national level. And it is for this reason that the Janata Dal S, led by Shri Kumaraswamy, has to decide what it wants to do. It wants to, of course, maximize its representation in the assembly, which is a good thing. Every party wants to have as many members in the assembly as they can.
Right.
But if all this is part of a game to support the BJP, and the BJP would also like this, to just make sure that in certain parts of Karnataka where the JDS is strong, first of all, to reduce the number of the Congress, and secondly, after the elections, make a deal with.
Right.
But here I must make one very important point. The BJP now, it does not really respect regional parties.
Okay.
Again and again and again, it is trying to use them and then reduce them to irrelevance.
Right.
The Janata Dal S has to now decide whether it wants to become irrelevant in Karnataka politics, or become a relevant factor, but a relevant factor for what I call consolidation of all the non-BJP parties. Deve Gowda ji, Deve Gowda has been a tall leader of Karnataka,
Right.
and he has been one of the tall leaders of the secular politics.
Agreed. Yes.
He's of course getting old, and he's not as active as before. But I hope that Kumaraswamy stays true to the traditions of his father, and he listens to the call of the times and not play into the game plan of the BJP.
Right.